Hi, everyone, and welcome to CBM Calling again here on April 21st. Excited today. We have my pastor from King's Community Church, Paul Mittelstaedt, and Sonya Tetley, the new CBOQ rep for CBM, in a role that many of you would know Ann Drost filled for many years. Hey, Paul and Sonya, how are you guys doing?
Doing good.
Yeah, things are going okay in your homes?
Well, as best as we can envision them these days. These are definitely a different look around here, but feeling pretty good.
That's good.
I have 4 kids at home, so we are a bit of a zoo, but it's been actually really good to have more family time together, and the kids are surprisingly doing really well.
That's great. Sonya, you're brand new into this role, actually haven't even started full time yet. And you've been immersed into a church reality that looks very different than it did a few months ago. But what are you hearing and seeing across the region as you talk to people and pastors and sit in on calls?
You know, I actually feel that this is a tremendous opportunity for the church, because for many churches, we've been just kind of going along and not embracing technology. And for the most part, this whole situation has forced pretty much every single church in the world online. And so I know our experience at the church I attend right now, we're seeing people attend online that would never walk through our doors on a Sunday morning. And so that's really awesome to have that exposure and to have an opportunity to share the word of God with people that maybe aren't ready to come, through the traditional church doors on a Sunday morning. And so even though this is a difficult situation, I think in many ways, God could really use this in a positive way for the church.
That's great. I mean, that's certainly been the case at the church I attend, which Paul pastors. And I was thinking, we were talking just the other night, that we left a meeting at the church on a Wednesday night thinking the world was one way. And by that Sunday, we had gone to a live stream service. Paul, I've been really, I know our family has been really impressed with how you've kept us connected. So can you share just a little bit about what you've been doing with Kings?
Yeah, it's definitely been a steep learning curve, and just finding different ways to help people connect in terms of worship and in terms of service, and just even to remember that, hey, we're still in this together, even though we're physically distant. And so the buzzword has become virtual, right? It's like everything's been virtual, but what we're trying really hard to do is find ways to make it actual. Like, even though it is a different feel, but really to make it something real and to work on those connections. And so we do a Sunday morning live stream. Afterwards, this Sunday, we tried for the first time on Zoom. We called it a coffee and conversation, and people after the service, they just kind of joined a Zoom call and just kind of hung out for a while, had conversations about kind of what we were talking about, what we were doing. And we have a Wednesday night Zoom call where everybody kind of has an opportunity to call in and connect and just a time of prayer. And also with our board, I mean, we've been meeting every week now, just a time just to check in and to pray together and hear how things are going.
Yeah, as you think about all that, is there any highlight that stands out?
Well, I guess I'm actually really pleased with the board, like the way that we as leaders are stepping up in terms of our relationship with each other, even though but it kind of that being regularly engaged, and to see members of our board, including yourself, just reaching out to different people and sharing the load. That really has been important. And so that I'd say would be the highlight, just the conversation we're having as a board.
Yeah, and I would mention the Good Friday service. I thought just the way you handled the whole Holy Week and Easter weekend, and shifted Good Friday from a live stream to a Zoom call that was much more interactive, and probably the production quality was a little bit lower than the live that you put out, but the interaction was great. So neat to see you doing different things. What about pastoral care? How do you do pastoral care in a context where you can't go visit people. You can't be with people if
it takes a lot more listening, because you got to listen to what people are writing in their texts and in the conversations we have on the phone, and just kind of to be a bit more discerning and finding creative ways just to reach out and really being comfortable with saying, hey, can I pray for you right now, just on the phone. I know sometimes people have felt that oh, that's a little bit awkward. That's what they do on the evangelists do that, but pastors, they need to have that face to face. But just saying, can I pray for you right now? And I think that's been one good thing that's been happening, just to care for people.
Wow. Yeah, it's this theme that's recurring through these calls, no matter if we're talking to people in Rwanda, or whether we're talking to people here in Canada or in Central America, wherever. Ministry continues. The ministry of the local church continues in this very different time. It just looks very different. Sonya, I know you have background as pastor and care for people, and you've been writing as part of this pandemic, trying to help people care for themselves and care for others. Can you talk a little bit about what that's meant and what you've done?
Well, it kind of started, I was probably one of the first people to isolate myself. My family, my husband and my son had come back from Uganda from a ministry trip. And it was just at the time when they declared it a pandemic. And so we were isolated at home for 2 weeks. And during that time, I just felt it was really overwhelming, all the negativity there was in the news, Facebook. Everywhere you turn, people just had such a negative slant to everything that was going on. And so when I was praying about it, I just felt a prompting from the Lord, why don't you do something to change the atmosphere? And so I just felt that I was going to take the next 45 days and try to put a positive stream out there for people that aren't necessarily believers yet, but maybe people that are seekers or just hungry for some hope. And so that was kind of the purpose of the blog that I've been writing. Some days it's humorous, sometimes days it's just about life as a mom, and sometimes I've been able to turn the conversations to spiritual things. I think the main other purpose of the blog is just opening people's eyes that this is a global crisis, and it's not just you and your family, it's not just your city, it's not just your country, but this is affecting the entire world. And so often people say, oh, we're all in the same boat together in this storm. But the truth is, actually, we're not in the same boat. We're in the same storm. We're all going through this storm. But my boat is not the same boat as maybe my brothers and sisters in Rwanda or some other country. And so the challenges that I face, they're still real challenges. But having that perspective of the blessing that we have, and my hope is that as people read the blog, that they'll be a little bit more thankful for where they're at and realize that these hardships, they can either make our hearts hard or it can breed compassion in our hearts for other people that are suffering. And so that's my hope as people kind of journey with me on this blog, that they will catch a heart for the greater world.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great point. I know I went about 10 days ago now, I went to Costco and complained a lot about it because I waited for close to an hour to get in, and then I filled my cart with meat, as much meat as I could, and I spent $400. And I remember thinking when I got home, that was an inconvenience for me. But so many people here in Canada and around the world don't have the luxury of being able to put $400 out. So you're right, we're in the same storm, but not the same boat. I want to transition to that and how the church cares for people who are more vulnerable or marginalized. But first, we want to say hello. I guess some people have been commenting on the live stream. So Estella from Mississauga City. Hi, Adrian Gardner. Hey, Estella. Good to see you. Barb Keys, our top fan, says it's nice to see you, Paul. And also want to let people know there's a poll question on the screen that you can answer. And the question is, what's one thing your church is doing to stay connected? So it's on the screen now, and you can also put that in the Facebook comments. But let's switch our conversation now, because again, ministry hasn't stopped. It looks different. Reaching our people, caring for our people looks different, but also caring for others, for our community and our world. looks different. Paul, I know you've done a lot of neat things, because again, I get the inside track here. I get to be part of this church. I have the privilege to be part of this church every week, even more so now that I'm not traveling. You've done some neat things about encouraging people to serve locally in safe ways. Can you share some about that?
Yeah, we partnered with a couple of organizations right here in North Oakville who are providing emergency food. One is a very creative thing. They just kind of their organization is closed due to COVID, but they've opened up their porch, and it's kind of like a porch food bank. And so I've encouraged people to contribute to that, but also we've had at least one volunteer from our church who is going once a week. She's responsible to kind of organize it, just because people drop stuff off and people take stuff. It's kind of very much on your honor system. So that's one way. Another one is another organization provides food, drops off to under-resourced families. We started out helping pack it, but now they've been able to re-employ some custodians from a local school to do that. It's safer that way. And so now we just help with the delivery of the food packs to the neighborhood. And so that's frontline organization. So that's really, it's kind of stuff for people who are comfortable, who are healthy, and who are comfortable to do something. It just gets outside and just to serve some of the under-resourced people in our community.
And I know we've also been trying to encourage people in this time to not be closed, tight-fisted, but to be open-handed and to follow Jesus' example of generosity. Can you share a little bit more about what that looks like at King's?
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of realized that we don't want to be tight-fisted, like you said, and kind of okay, let's just survive this thing, let's just make it to the end, and then we'll carry on. But really to realize that we've been given resources and we have an opportunity to serve, and we've kind of looked at this opportunity to. I think this is the point that I should talk about, the generosity that we want to encourage in our congregation to give over and above to support some of these ministries as well. So we've kind of got this initiative to raise, like we have some resources we're starting to give to support some organizations locally, also in downtown Toronto, and then also internationally in Lebanon. And we want to encourage our people to match that, and with the goal of to give away $5,000 before the end of June.
Isn't that neat? I know, Sonya, you've heard from all kinds of churches and people that you're calling to thank for their generous gifts. It's so easy. I just think, Sonya, sometimes in this season it can be easy to become, and it's true. I mean, there's a very real, people are hurting. People have lost jobs. We need to be sensitive to all that. But at the same time, if we're able, how can we be generous? And people like Sonya, we at CBM want to help your churches. So I know, I think we're going to show the website now and show you how you can reach out if you're a church in Ontario or English-speaking Quebec and want to connect with Sonya. They're going to, yeah. And then also if you're in Atlantic Canada, Randy Stanton, or in Western Canada, Dennis Shierman. We'd love to hear what your church is doing, pray for you, support you in ministry. As we, again, ministry looks different, but it continues. I've got some other notes of people that are watching that we want to say hi to. Adil Islam watching from Bangkok. And Donna Willett talks about her church having a service each Sunday morning, and the church calendars are online, lots of phoning, caring for people. And Joe Breedy from Lebanon, Paul, who you met when you were there. Joe says hello. Sonya, you have lived in East Asia as a missionary. And a lot of our initial relief was based there. As people are giving to CBM's response, it's going to be with all of our global partners. But can you just give people a little bit insight into the type of work that we've been able to do?
Yeah, it's just really exciting to hear some of the reports that have come out. From my experience living in East Asia, some of the countries that are in that region are really closed nations. And so that comes with a lot of sensitivity, and that also comes with a lot of scrutiny from the authorities. And so the practice that we always would have was that we would always work with the local church and the local believers. And so that's what CBM has been doing. They've been partnering with the local church. And what's amazing about that is, global workers and people will come and go and in these places, but the local church is what stays and what will always be there. And so by sending support through these local churches, the amazing thing is that the witness that it can be in those nations where there is that scrutiny towards them. So often in some of these places, there's a lot of suspicion towards the local church, but then when they're able in these times of crises to show the love of God, to meet these practical needs, it opens doors that you cannot imagine, and it opens hearts, and it opens even, I would say, favor that often comes to the church in places where they struggle to kind of gain that favor. And so, yeah, I would just encourage everybody that it's just amazing what our gifts from here, the difference that it can make. And it goes beyond even the tangible help to the people that it's helping. It's actually furthers the work of the church, because the church then, like I said, they're able, looked in a different way, they're trusted, they gain favor, and through it people are able to hear the message of Jesus. And so, yeah, thank you to everyone that's been giving.
Yeah.
And we're going to be hearing more about different places that this is touching.
Yeah, and our churches in Canada are doing the same in their own communities as our partners are around the world. The local church, people living out the gospel in word and deed. Sherry Howard Chuck from Community Baptist in Swift Current is commenting. I was there last fall. Great to see what your church is doing. And great to hear Paul, and well, I'm part of it, but great for you to have the opportunity to share with others some of what you're doing at King's. I don't think in your seminary training there was a course on live streaming and how to do church virtually, but it's been amazing to see churches across our country continue ministry. It just looks different.
Yeah. I mean, I like what Sonya said earlier, and even what she's continuing to say, just in terms of, this is a difficult time. It is a challenge, and you're right. It's not something you're going to learn in seminary, or you did learn in seminary, but it's also a great opportunity. Like, it really is. Because there's a uniqueness about this, and the fact that this is something that everybody is going through in some way around the world. And so so the opportunity is there. And I think of what happened in the book of Acts. I mean, there was this great persecution, and then the church, they were kind of enjoying their time in Jerusalem, and then they just got dispersed throughout the world. It was a difficult, challenging thing, but it was also an opportunity. And I think in some ways that this is it's a different kind of dispersion or diaspora or whatever. It's an online diaspora in so many ways, and it is an opportunity that even as we minister to each other in the midst of the challenge, and then also minister to others around us in our community, in our world, God's grace is going to just down in a mighty way. Really believe that.
Amen. I think that's a good spot to wrap things up. Our time is ticking, but with that message of hope that God is not finished. The church looks very different, but God's at work through his church here and around the world. Tomorrow on CBM Calling, we're back at the same time, 2:30 Eastern, with Terry Smith, our executive director, with Polisi, field staff based in the Democratic Republic of Congo, in Goma, sharing some of what's going on in that part of the world with our partners. So thanks, Paul. Thanks, Sonya, for taking time and sharing how God's at work in your life and faith communities. Okay, thanks. We'll see you later.
Bye.